Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to day 2. ASU's Interplanetary Initiative is co-hosting today. And it's my pleasure to introduce myself. I personally have really enjoyed this last day being with all of you, reimagining space exploration. I personally, about a year ago, joined ASU's Interplanetary Initiative in this capacity as deputy director, and sort of reimagined my career. So I'm a biochemical engineer by training. I spent my career in healthcare and life sciences with a focus on advancing innovation in pediatrics, working with startups, investing in them, and so forth. So I'm all about reinvention and taking risks, and so this is a great group, and I've enjoyed meeting many of you and to continue to do so. And I think I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Interplanetary Initiative, because it took me away from sort of my comfortable career and what I knew to go to this crazy place in the desert to do this crazy thing that's Interplanetary Initiative. And we're all about really bringing networks of people together in new ways and activating them. So I hope you'll be part of that story that we write going forward. So let me tell you a little bit about the story of the Interplanetary Initiative and how it started. So about 5 years ago, these two individuals, Dr. Michael Crow, the president of ASU, and Dr. Lindy Elkins-Tanton, who at the time was the director of our School of Earth and Space Exploration, and also, of course, now is the principal investigator of the upcoming NASA Psyche mission, came together to think about how ASU could build upon its existing strengths in science, technology, space missions, to go beyond and think about bringing every aspect of the human endeavor and all the disciplines, and bringing a lot of the outside world closer into ASU to think about building the social and system level solutions that are going to be needed to support our future in space, and a positive future in space. And also to think about how can we sort of imagine new models for accelerating research to get there faster and more effectively, and new models to train the future generations of talent that are going to get us there. So that was the impetus behind the Interplanetary Initiative. And as many things, ASU and Interplanetary in particular, everything is an experiment, including how we think about our sort of organization within the university. So we're a small group, we're 25 people. We are not a tenure home for faculty, and we are mandated to work across the entire university. So by design, we have to be collaborative. And I think by and large, we've been successful in doing this in a few ways. First, everything that we do, we focus on big, audacious questions that inspire people to feel like they're part of something big and a purpose and meaningful. But also, because they're so big, it requires expertise from very diverse areas of expertise, which means that when you become part of the network and work on our projects, you have a reason to go knocking on doors and interacting with people that you otherwise would have probably no reason to talk with. And so creating that community and the sense of purpose, and of course, and also we give a little money, which of course helps get things going. And so this is our sort of vision and mission statement. What we try to do is accelerate research and teach the next generation in new ways by exploring different types of ways of teaming and creating solutions at scale, and that bring together discipline, sectors, and cultures, because we believe this is the way that our future in space will be more inclusive and sustainable. So there are a lot of things that we do, and I don't have enough time to talk about all of them, but I thought I would share with you some of the sort of foundational programs that we have that sort of will give you a sense of the philosophy and the ethos that we have at Interplanetary, and specifically the way in which we have built our pipeline of projects, our research portfolio. And it follows a very specific methodology that Lindy Elkins-Tanton conceived several years ago, and that we've been implementing and optimizing, called the Big Questions Teaming Method. And so this is how we start projects. It entails participating in a workshop, typically about 2 hours, where we bring together experts from across the university, but also individuals from outside the university, to brainstorm the biggest questions around space exploration. And we can constrain those prompts in various ways. But we go very expansive and have everyone ask the biggest questions that are on their minds. We vote on the most important ones, and then the participants will self-assemble into teams based on the questions that they feel most compelled to answer. And then the groups start talking about together what they might do in a 1-year time frame that can advance progress towards refining the question or finding solutions to the question. Of course, we don't always have all the experts necessary in the room, so then we identify which areas of expertise are missing that would be meaningful to achieving those outcomes. And only at the end do we choose the leader. So this is all very intentional, including the norms of engagement and so forth during this process. And so this is how these ideas emerge, and we fund the best ones, and then we put them under project management. So we provide them all the support needed for them to be able to achieve their goals. We funded over 35 projects in this way over the last few years. And I wanted to share with you a few examples, because this portfolio is extremely diverse because it depends on who's in the room and what their interests are. I'll start with Mission Interplanetary, which is a podcast that is co-hosted by former NASA astronaut Katie Coleman. And this was one of our earlier projects that sought to answer how do we galvanize public support for space exploration. So we have 2 seasons under our belt, and we have 2 more planned for this upcoming year. Port of Mars focuses as a social science project, where it's a video game where players are early settlers on Mars, and their behaviors and their choices are recorded and studied and evaluated to see how those behaviors lead to the demise or the survival of the colony. Moon Dialogues is a partnership with Open Lunar Foundation that brings together various stakeholders around salons to talk about lunar policy and governance. A project we're pretty excited about funding this year is Mars on the Field. So this is an immersive virtual reality experience that's going to take place on the Sun Devil football stadium, where participants will go from one end zone to the other and go through time and space exploring the surface of Mars. We also have an exciting project focused on avoiding cataclysmic war in space with participants from Space Force and NASA and several aerospace companies and academic collaborators to really think about this very important and timely topic. And then the last one I want to just point out is religious space. So this is a recent project that we funded to look at a question that I think we don't think about enough, and we're just scratching the surface of, but it's recognizing that our religious beliefs and our spiritual beliefs are stories, and they're based on assumptions about our role as humans in space, and does color and influence our investment decisions, our policy decisions, and even our science. And so these are things that are important for us to recognize and to start thinking about. So importantly, we do this for impact. So this is how we launch projects. We seed fund them for a year, perhaps more. But ultimately, they have to move beyond our support with extramural funding, additional partners. And we wanted them to affect and impact as many people as possible. That can go through a commercialization route or a more standard academic sort of way of disseminating information. Ideally, our projects then splinter off into multiple projects, which happens all the time. We believe that this method has been well established in that for every $1 that we've invested in these seed projects, they've returned close to $8 in grants, contracts, and royalties. And so we are now talking to other research groups within ASU and outside of ASU that might be interested in applying this methodology to their research programs. And so if this is something that piques your interest, I'm happy to speak to you more about it. So switching gears a little bit, I thought I would share with you one of our sort of innovations in education. We have a number of educational programs that we're working on and launching, but I wanted to focus on this degree program called Technological Leadership. We've been offering it now for 2 years, and in interplanetary fashion, it is taught by faculty all over the university. And it has a few sort of core ingredients that I wanted to share with you. The first is that From day one, freshmen, this is an undergraduate degree. We offer it as a major. We'll offer it as a minor next year, working on a master's. Our students are faced with the challenge of doing research as an undergraduate, day one, by focusing on big questions, such as some themes that came up yesterday. What is the definition of life, and how might we detect it on icy moons? One example of questions that they work on for a semester. And they learn to review the literature, look at it critically, distill it, and then figure out what the natural next question needs to be to advance those research questions. They also are required to do a lot of hands-on making. So they design, for example, and prototype space missions. And then they're required to do quite a hefty load in terms of internships with industry, because we think that's also very critical for launching one's career. So I wanted to share that with you. And then sort of going back to what I was talking about at the top, we're all about creating new networks and new ways of collaborating, but not just to talk about ideas, but to really make them actionable and scalable in the real world. Every year we host a marquee event that we call the Space Futures Convening, where we bring the brightest minds and thought leaders in the private sector, in academia, industry, nonprofits, and breakthrough attends, to spend a lovely weekend in Arizona, where we all get to enjoy each other's presence, but also we go through the big questions teaming method. And in fact, this year we're going to be funding 3 projects that came out of our meeting back in January. I thought I'd talk a little bit about ASU's role in Orbital Reef, which is the next generation commercial space station that is led by Blue Origin and Sierra Space. We are involved not in the way that you might expect, so we're not involved in designing or building the space station. We're involved through Interplanetary for our sort of convening abilities. So we've brought together these 15 universities that you see listed here to advise the project and to advocate on behalf of the academic community in terms of ensuring ethical research in space, access to these new destinations for more researchers, and also creating new outreach programs, STEM outreach programs. We also have a new program called the Space Alliance. This is focused specifically on engaging the private sector, so large aerospace companies, new space companies. But interestingly, with the advent of these commercial space stations, a lot of companies that haven't thought of space as a market, I have a healthcare background, so certainly in terms of healthcare delivery, the smart companies are starting to think, well, how are our products and services going to translate to these new marketplaces? So we unlock sort of all of what ASU has to offer in terms of space and business support to the business sector. And then the last thing I want to share with you is our interplanetary laboratory. It's a physical space on our Tempe campus that really brings together sort of all of the parts of what we do in terms of innovation, workforce development, and collaboration. And it's a 6,800 square foot maker space that supports the full product life cycle from design to operations for a small spacecraft. And it's really unique in 2 ways. The first, which is very much aligned with our mission, which is that it's a core facility. So it is accessible in a very cost-effective way for our faculty and students from other universities and industry. So it's a catalytic enabling asset that we offer to the community for early stage technology development. And the second attribute is that it is operated and run by students, undergrad and graduate students. So they make sure the facility is running smoothly and also work with customers on projects. And in fact, we have 2 of our students here, Chandler and Ashley. So please say hi to them if you see them. They're amazing, and they make it all happen. And lastly, you might be wondering who this good-looking group of people are over here in the photo. So a couple months ago, we hosted the Breakthrough Starshot Communications Workshop. And so these were the participants that popped over to the lab for lunch. So I thought I would circle back on that and end there. And thank you so much. And I hope we find a way to work together. And it's lovely to be among you in these last 2 days. Thank you so much.